It happens faster than most people think. One moment a person is inside a tent. The next moment the space where they were supposed to be is empty. No sound, no struggle, no direction of travel, just absence. Search teams say the same thing again and again. A tent is the last place anyone expects a disappearance to start. Yet it happens. More often than the public knows. People vanish at night while zipped inside their shelters. Campsites stay untouched. Gear remains organized. Weather is stable. Nothing looks disturbed. And still the person is gone. Rangers write these files quietly. Volunteers remember the details for years. The patterns are inconsistent. The outcomes make no sense. Distance is often short. Terrain is simple. But once someone steps out of sight, the trail ends. In this series, we follow 8 documented disappearance cases. Different states, different landscapes, desert flats, mountain lakes, pine forests, canyons. A busy campground where dozens of people slept only meters away. A tent found beside a cave entrance with a light still on inside. A campsite in the heat where the wind erased nothing and the footprints still refused to line up. A pair of shoes discovered standing upright on a fallen tree long after the search had ended. A jacket recovered deep inside a rock cavity with no access route. Bodies found weeks later in high or distant locations that should not have been reachable at night. These files include ordinary hikers, experienced field workers, a teenager, a geologist, couples, solo travelers, different backgrounds, different conditions, the same outcome each time. No witness saw the moment, no radio carried the call, no clear evidence explained the distance between the last known position and the recovery site. If you want long-form field reports like this, consider supporting the channel. A like or a subscription helps keep these investigations moving. If you have thoughts or theories as we go, leave them in the comments. Sometimes a single observation from someone watching helps see a detail that others missed. Now we begin with the first disappearance. A quiet lakeshore in early summer, a clear night, no wind. A single tent placed a short distance from the waterline. Rangers described the area as easy ground, open visibility, no hazards within reach. The woman camping there was young, fit, and traveling alone. That evening, other visitors saw her walking near the water, wearing light summer clothing. She looked relaxed. She spoke briefly with a couple passing by and said she planned to film the sunrise across the lake. Nothing about her seemed uneasy. Near sunset, she returned to her tent. A small cooking stove cooled on a flat rock. Her pack was inside. A phone battery pack was charging. The shoreline carried no unusual marks. A few shallow footprints led from the water back to the tent. No one reported loud noises during the night. No one noticed movement near her campsite. The lake surface stayed calm until morning. The search record opens at 6:41 a.m. A single tent stands on a narrow strip of grass above a calm mountain lake. The campsite looks normal. The zipper is closed. No torn fabric. No sign of forced entry. The ground around the tent shows only shallow impressions from the previous evening. The woman who used the tent is not there. When rangers unzip the door, they find her gear placed the way most solo travelers keep it. Pack against the left wall. Phone cable attached to a battery. Clothing folded near the foot end. A thin summer top and tight shorts she wore the previous day are gone from the pile. They are not inside the tent. They are not outside either. Her shoes are missing too, but there are no fresh prints leading away from the tent. The surface is mixed gravel and hard soil. A person walking here should leave some sign. The stove from last night sits cold on a rock. The lighter beside it shows no recent use. Her last phone log ends at 22:14 with normal battery level. Nothing suggests worry or confusion. No one else in the area reports hearing anything unusual. The lake remained quiet. The shore stayed undisturbed. Even small animals leave more movement than what appears here. Rangers follow the shoreline for several hundred meters. No clothing, no marks, no drag traces, No heel indentations. The first question in the field log is simple. If she walked away, where are the prints? If she entered the water, where is the slide pattern from the bank? And if she stayed near the campsite, why is there no trace of a fall? By 8:15, a boat team scans the shallow zone. Water clarity is high. No body, no fabric, no light reflection from metal objects. The temperature of the lake is low enough that most material would settle near the drop line. Nothing is visible. Rangers note the absence of disturbance in the reeds. That detail stays in the file and is mentioned repeatedly. At 10:42, a volunteer finds a piece of food wrapper caught in a branch on the far side of the lake. It matches the brand she carried, but rangers mark it as inconclusive because campers use the same area often. The wrapper shows light wear. It could be recent. It could be from another visitor. Search teams continue around the perimeter. By midday, the focus shifts uphill. Thermal imaging runs a standard sweep. Negative return. A second team checks the ridge trail. They find nothing except a few older prints from hikers who passed through the previous afternoon. The report notes that none match her shoe size. At 14:26, the air unit expands the grid. On the fourth pass, the operator marks an irregular shape on a rock shelf far above the lake. It is small, pale, possibly fabric. The distance is significant. The elevation gain is severe. No trail leads up. No route is suitable for ascending at night. The ground between the campsite and the shelf contains loose stone and steep angles. Any climb would leave debris. Ground teams reach the shelf in late afternoon. They locate a thin strip of material consistent with elastic trim from a garment. The color matches the shorts she was wearing. The fabric is clean. No tearing. No abrasions. No scuffing. It looks placed rather than dragged. Rangers write that in the log without interpretation. The missing person is still not found. Evening approaches. The temperature drops. Visibility decreases. The day ends with no explanation for how a person could move from a flat lake shore to a high rock shelf in a single night without leaving a single directional trace. Teams return to the rock shelf the next morning at 6:58. Light wind. Clear visibility across the ridge. The fabric piece found the previous day is logged and sealed. No additional items are visible in the immediate area. The slope below the shelf is a mix of broken stone and thin soil. Any uncontrolled fall should leave marks. Rangers find none. At 8:12, a second team moves along a narrow traverse leading west. The ground there is unstable. Even small movement sends fine gravel down slope. Volunteers check the angle of debris trails. Nothing indicates human passage. One ranger comments in the log that the shelf is reachable only with technical gear or by climbing in daylight with full awareness of footholds. The subject carried no gear and had no climbing experience. Dogs brought to the site catch scent near the grass line above the lakeshore. They pull uphill briefly, then lose the trace at a point where the ground becomes hard. The handler repeats the pass twice. Same result. Scent does not continue toward the shelf. No secondary direction. The dogs sit and refuse to track further. The log includes that observation without interpretation. At 11:27, a helicopter scans a wider radius. On the fifth pass, the operator notes a faint heat anomaly on a ledge approximately 200 meters above the shelf. It could be sun reflection. It could be residual warmth from rock. The ground team decides to check it. The ledge is narrow and exposed. No easy approach exists. It takes over an hour to reach the point. At 12:51, they find the missing woman. The body is positioned on the far end of the ledge, seated upright against the rock wall. Clothing is intact. No tearing. No signs of animal activity. The surface beneath shows no scrape marks. The position looks placed rather than collapsed. Rangers note that the location has no visible access route from above or below. The distance from her tent to this ledge is more than triple the elevation gain of the shelf. The direct line between these points is unstable terrain with no flat recovery zones. A deputy marks the position and photographs the scene. The report notes that the feet are clean. No dust consistent with a long ascent. No bruising consistent with a fall. No debris in the hands. The body is removed later in controlled conditions. Coroner findings list exposure and hypothermia as probable factors, but do not identify a mechanism of travel to the ledge. The official summary for Day 2 includes 3 statements repeated by multiple personnel. No prints from the tent to the slope. No scent toward higher terrain. No logical route connecting the lakeshore to the recovery site. Rangers review the timeline once more. Last known activity at 22:14. No witnesses report movement. Weather stable. No storms. No wind events. No signs of disorientation near the tent. Yet the recovery point is a high ledge with no practical nighttime access. The second case begins in a pine forest with stable weather and clear ground. A married couple arrived late in the afternoon and set their tent a short distance from an established trail. The campsite layout was simple. 1 shared sleeping bag, 2 packs inside, cooking gear stored under a small tarp. No unusual activity noted by nearby campers. The area is quiet after sunset. At 6:15, the husband reports that he woke up and found the tent partially unzipped. His wife was gone. Her shoes were not inside the tent. Her jacket was still there. The husband said he did not hear her exit. No noise woke him. The ground outside was firm and dry. Footprints leading away were visible for the first few meters. Rangers arrive at 7:40. They document 2 sets of impressions. One consistent with the wife walking at normal pace. Another set appears above it at a slight angle, suggesting she retraced the path at least once. After 300 meters, the prints become disorganized. Some face back toward the tent. Others continue deeper into the forest. The log notes confusion in directional pattern. At 9:23, a secondary search team discovers a broken branch at shoulder height. The ground under it shows no fall marks. No sign of injury. A small hair tie is found nearby. It matches the type she wore. Rangers log it as relevant but not conclusive. Dogs follow the prints until they reach a wide flat area where soil transitions to packed needles. Scent becomes weak. The handler writes that the trace dissipates without clear termination. By 13:10, the radius expands. Temperature rises slightly. Visibility remains good. A drone performs a short-range sweep. No heat signature. No movement between trees. Rangers interview the husband again to confirm times. His account does not change. He describes no argument, no illness, no unusual behavior the previous evening. At 15:51, a team stationed near a distant service road receives a call about a pack lying beside a fence post 12 kilometers from the original campsite. The pack is confirmed to be hers. The straps are clean, no soil on the bottom. The contents are mostly intact. A small container of snacks is missing. The water bottle is half full. Rangers note that the area around the pack holds no prints, no drag marks, no tire impressions. This distance becomes a focus. 12 kilometers across uneven terrain is significant. The woman was not carrying navigation equipment. She did not bring a headlamp. Nighttime travel without a light in this terrain is unlikely. Rangers examine the roadside soil for signs of transport. None appear. At 18:28, analysis of her smartwatch data becomes available. Movement logs show short steps near the campsite, consistent with the initial footprint trail. Then a long period with no recorded motion. After that, the coordinates jump directly to a point close to where the pack was found. No intermediate locations, no gradual travel path. The data vendor later confirms that the model rarely records sudden coordinate jumps without error messages. No error codes are present. Rangers return to the roadside location the next morning at 7:03. Weather stable, light cloud cover, visibility clear across the fence line and the service road. The pack sits exactly where it was found the previous day. No new prints, no animal disturbance, no tire marks. Soil near the post is undisturbed for at least 1 meter in every direction. At 7:48, an evidence technician inspects the straps and zippers. No dust embedded in the fibers. No scratches. No pulled threads. An object dropped or dragged across rough terrain would show something. The pack surface shows none of it. Interior temperature of the water bottle is consistent with overnight cooling. Rangers log the condition as inconsistent with extended field travel. At 9:21, a team begins a grid search west of the road. The area consists of rolling pine growth and low brush, easy to move through. No prints appear, no pieces of clothing, no signs of temporary rest. The husband joins for a brief walkthrough. He identifies missing items: a snack packet, a small comb, nothing else. Rangers note no clear reason these specific items are absent while everything else remains. By 11:14, the smartwatch data is reviewed in detail. Movement graph shows short steps during early morning hours near the campsite. After that, there is no recorded acceleration, no log of distance, no vertical change. Then a single time stamp at a point only 60 meters from the roadside fence. Battery drop during that period is minimal. Data integrity status reads normal. At 12:57, a volunteer team on the opposite side of the road finds a plastic snack wrapper partly lodged under a rock. Brand matches the missing packet. The wrapper is clean. No dirt inside the folds. It appears recently placed, but not carried by wind. The ground around it shows no pressure marks. A ranger measures the distance from the pack location: 42 meters. The gap between the two objects has no footprints or traceable path. At 15:25, weather begins to shift. Light wind moves through the pines. Search teams widen the perimeter. Dogs attempt to reacquire scent from an article of clothing kept at the command post. Two dogs pull in different directions. Both lose trail within minutes. Handler notes the inconsistency and logs it as inconclusive. Before sunset, Rangers interview nearby property owners. No reports of hitchhikers. No sightings of a woman walking the service road. No camera footage from passing vehicles. Traffic logs show only 3 cars overnight. None stopped. The day ends with no additional evidence. The distance from the campsite to the road remains unexplained. The condition of the pack does not match the terrain between points. Data from the smartwatch does not match expected movement. The single snack wrapper near the road offers no direction of origin. Looking at all of this together, which point feels the least consistent to you? The lack of prints, the clean pack, the sudden GPS coordinate, or the fact that she has not been located anywhere between those positions? By the 3rd day, the search shifts from active tracking to pattern analysis. Rangers gather at the command point at 6:42 a.m. A large map is spread across a folding table. Red markers designate confirmed evidence. Blue markers show assumed travel paths. There is no continuous route, only isolated points. At 7:15, investigators reconstruct the timeline once again. The wife was last confirmed inside the tent before sunrise. First prints appeared on the trail at roughly 6:30. Crews recheck the soil hardness records. Overnight temperatures stayed above freezing. Ground remained firm. A normal walking pattern should have recorded all steps clearly. Instead, the trail becomes irregular within minutes of leaving the campsite. The log notes lack of consistency between early and later impressions. At 8:51, a ranger proposes a simple version. The woman could have become disoriented. She might have walked in widening arcs. She might have attempted to return and then change direction. But this does not explain the clean condition of the pack found near the road. Nor does it explain the 12-kilometer gap between the first and last known points. By 10:17, the team reviews prior cases in the region. None involve an object appearing far from the initial trace without intermediate evidence. No pattern of theft. No pattern of voluntary departure. No reports of sightings along the service road. Rangers consider the possibility of transport by another person. Yet no prints other than the subjects appear near the campsite or the road. Soil near the fence shows no weight displacement beyond natural settling. At 11:49, technicians examine the pack interior again. A thin layer of pine dust appears on one pocket. The dust type does not match the forest floor near the campsite. It matches vegetation closer to the ridge sector 8 kilometers west. There is no evidence she traveled there. Teams sweep that area. Nothing is found. No additional items. No prints. No sign she stopped there. At 13:26, the husband gives a statement on the missing snack packet. He recalls she placed it in the pack side pocket the previous evening. Rangers compare the location of the wrapper found under the rock. The distance and angle do not suggest accidental drop. There are no signs of small animal contact. The wrapper is positioned too deliberately to be wind-driven. The field report describes it as placed rather than discarded. By 15:42, the main discussion turns to the smartwatch coordinate. The manufacturer confirms no known issue that would replace an entire travel sequence with a precise point far from the origin. A corrupted data block would show either error codes or abrupt time gaps. Neither appears. The device behaved normally according to diagnostic logs. At 17, 10 search teams review the possibility that she reached the service road by following a natural drainage line. The line is shallow and clear. Rangers walk it end to end. No prints, no disturbed debris, no broken twigs. The terrain would have recorded some form of passage. It records none. As daylight fades, Incident Command updates the file. Status remains open. No direction of travel established. No reasonable cause identified for the distance between points. No explanation for object placement without trackable movement. The third disappearance begins at a rocky basin below a steep ridge. A geologist arrived there for a routine overnight survey. His tent was set on level ground near a cluster of boulders. Weather was stable. No storms were recorded. He carried basic gear. No climbing equipment, no rope, no helmet. He texted a colleague at 19:42. Normal message. No sign of concern. At 23:06, a small rockfall occurred on the ridge above the campsite. Several nearby hikers reported the sound. None reported movement around the geologist's tent. No one saw a light. No one heard a call for help. The sound lasted only a few seconds. Rangers later confirmed the fall was minor. Loose debris shifted, but no large stones reached the valley floor. At 6:20 the next morning, a survey team passed near the campsite. The tent was empty. The zipper was open. The sleeping bag was partially unrolled. His boots were missing. His jacket remained inside. His notebook lay on top of the pack. A timestamp written on the last page read 23:48. Rangers noted the inconsistency. If he left before or during the rockfall, he could not have written the time after the event. The ink showed no smearing. The page was clean. At 7:51, the team begins scanning the ground for prints. The soil is mixed gravel and dust. It records impressions clearly. No defined boot tracks are found within 10 meters of the tent. A few scattered marks appear near a boulder, then end abruptly on exposed stone. Rangers mark the point. The angle suggests a shift in direction, but no continuation exists. At 9:30, a helicopter performs a short sweep of the ridge. On the third pass, a single object is seen on a narrow shelf near the summit. Color matches brown leather. A ground team moves toward it. The climb requires technical footing. Rangers use ropes. No second boot. No clothing. No pack. No blood. No torn fabric. No sign of a fall. A fall from that height would produce obvious scatter. None appears. By 16:40, a second anomaly is logged. The notebook timestamp is rechecked. The pen imprint pressure suggests a calm writing motion. The ink line is steady. The time written does not match any logical window in the disappearance. Rangers consider the possibility that he wrote the time earlier, but this does not explain why he would write a future timestamp in standard field format. Evening approaches. No new evidence appears. The location of the boot raises questions about access. The lack of damage raises questions about transport. The timestamp raises questions about sequence. If you reviewed this on a case board, which detail would you circle first? The missing prints, the intact boot on the summit shelf, or the time recorded after the rockfall? At 7:12 the next morning, rangers return to the upper shelves. The weather is clear. Visibility extends across the ridgeline. The search begins from the boot location and expands outward. No secondary impressions appear. No loose debris shows recent disturbance. A thin layer of frost lies on shaded stone. It remains unbroken except where the rope team stepped the previous day. At 7:59, another helicopter pass detects a faint reflection on a slope 200 meters east. The angle suggests metal. Rangers mark the coordinates. The slope is steep but reachable. When the ground team arrives, they locate a small metallic clip. It matches the type used to secure the geologist's sample pouch. The pouch itself is not present. The clip is clean. No scratches. No bent edges. An object sliding down the slope would show abrasion. This one does not. At 9:43, a dog unit is deployed at the campsite below. The dogs follow scent toward the boulder cluster, but lose it near the initial footprint break. They do not pull uphill. They do not indicate direction toward the ridge. The handler logs the result. Scent does not extend beyond the lower shelf line. Rangers compare this with the position of the boot far above. The discrepancy is noted as significant. At 11:15, a volunteer team checks the gully leading from the ridge to the east. Loose gravel, scattered branches, minimal vegetation, no prints, no scuff marks, no foreign fibers, no sign of descent. The gully would normally capture debris from any fall. It holds none related to the subject. By 12:24, technicians inspect the boot found the previous day. A thin dust layer appears on the outer sole. The dust type matches upper ridge sediment, not valley floor material. This suggests placement on the shelf for some time. Yet the boot was not there when climbers passed the same area the previous week. Ranger notes confirm that routine patrol had clear visibility of that shelf. At 13:58, attention returns to the notebook timestamp. Weather logs confirm no significant change in temperature or humidity overnight. Ink drying conditions were normal. The notation appears deliberate. No smearing from quick movement. No signs of writing in the dark. The lamp found in the tent had no fresh battery use. If he wrote the time after the rockfall sound, the tent light does not confirm illumination during that period. By 15:11, the investigation expands downslope on the far side of the ridge. The terrain becomes more forested. Teams clear several hundred meters. Still no clothing, no pack, no signs of small animal activity carrying material uphill. Local wildlife behavior does not match patterns that would place objects on narrow rock shelves. As evening approaches, rangers prepare the interim report. It includes 3 contradicting conditions: no trackable route from the tent to the upper shelves, no scent trail supporting upward movement, no physical damage on recovered items that would match accidental ascent or fall. In these conditions, what explanation aligns with the evidence? A night climb without gear, a misstep that leaves no scrape, or a movement path that has not yet been identified anywhere on the ridge? At 6:50 the following morning, the search command shifts focus from the ridge to the connecting valleys. The assumption is simple. If upward movement cannot be confirmed, downward routes must be checked again with higher resolution. Teams begin at the lowest gully and work upward in overlapping grids. Weather remains clear. Ground visibility remains strong. At 7:33, a ranger finds a single scrap of paper lodged between 2 small stones near a drainage crease. The handwriting matches the geologist's field notes. The fragment lists mineral coordinates unrelated to this sector. The edges of the paper show no tearing pattern matching the notebook. The page number is missing. The log marks the finding as irregular. If the fragment came from his notebook, the separation method is not evident. At 8:42, dogs attempt a third scent run from the camp. They follow the same initial path toward the boulder cluster. Again, they circle and stop. The handler notes no sign of directional pull toward the drainage areas. This suggests the subject did not travel downhill. Yet no evidence supports an upward path either. By 10:17, investigators review possible human transfer. They check for shoe impressions from other hikers. None match the subject's boot size or tread. They check for rope fibers on upper shelves. None appear. They check for signs of another person's presence in the area. No additional prints or clothing traces are recorded. At 11:49, a helicopter conducts a long-range sweep. On the northern face of the ridge, 90 meters below the summit, crew spots an irregular shape in a pocket of dense brush. Access is difficult. Ground teams need almost 2 hours to reach it. When they arrive, they find the body of the geologist. The position is on a ledge too narrow for stable footing. The drop below is severe. No debris field surrounds the site. No torn rock. No disturbed brush above. The body shows no major trauma consistent with a fall from significant height. Minor abrasions are present, but do not indicate a high-energy impact. Clothing is mostly intact. The left boot remains on. The right boot is the one found earlier on the upper shelf. The ground under the body holds no prints, no slide marks, no clear entry route. At 16:22, rangers review the topography. To reach the ledge from above requires crossing a smooth rock slope with almost no friction points. To reach it from below requires climbing a near vertical section. The subject had no climbing equipment. The notebook in his pack contains no notes about ascending the ridge. Nothing in his previous field log suggests interest in climbing beyond survey requirements. At 17:35, the final summary for the day is written. 3 anomalies remain unresolved. The boot found high on the shelf. The metal clip found on a separate slope. The notebook timestamp written after the likely time he left the tent. The body location does not correlate with any expected path. The 4th disappearance begins at a mixed forest ridge with soft ground and a narrow overlook above a valley. 3 friends set their tent near a flat section of the trail. They hiked a short route that afternoon. No reported problems. No visible signs of fatigue. The area is lightly used. No other groups camped within hearing distance. At 22:51, one of the men reportedly left the tent to use the tree line. The other 2 remained inside. No argument was noted. No unusual sound occurred before he stepped out. The tent flap closed behind him. The ground outside was damp from evening condensation. It should show prints clearly. At 23:24, the 2 remaining friends exited the tent after he did not return. Their headlamps illuminated the immediate area. They called his name. No response. They followed a line of prints leading toward a cluster of cedar trees. After 12 meters, the prints split. One set angled left, another faint line angled right. Both ended on firmer soil. They decided to split briefly to check each direction. Rangers reconstructed this sequence from statements given by both men before they vanished. The 2 men walked no more than 6 to 10 meters apart while calling to each other. They maintained line of sight for a moment. Then fog drifted in from the valley. Visibility dropped sharply. Radio timestamps recorded at 23:32 show one transmission from one of the men. The message is incomplete. Only background noise is captured. At 6:40 the next morning, a day hiker found the tent still standing. The flap was half open. Packs inside were intact. The sleeping bags showed no sign of struggle. The hiker reported no voices, no movement, no footprints near the tent except a few unclear impressions softened by overnight moisture. Rangers reached the scene at 7:29. They confirmed 3 people were missing. At 8:45, rangers documented the ground conditions. Soil damp but stable. A few partial prints found near the cedar cluster suggest the first man walked normally. The split in the prints is noted again. The logs show no clear direction for the other 2 men. Soft ground should have preserved more information. It did not. Moisture blur does not fully explain the near disappearance of all 3 sets of prints. At 10:17, a drone begins a perimeter sweep. On the western slope, it detects a small reflective spot. Ground teams reach it by 12:18. They find a headlamp belonging to one of the men. Batteries intact. Light still functional. The lamp lies on a slope at an angle inconsistent with rolling. No marks above it. No trail below it. Rangers log the position as irregular. At 14:53, a search team located a water bottle near a fallen trunk. The bottle belongs to the second missing man. It is upright. No dents. No dirt on the cap. The ground around it is undisturbed. Distance between the tent and the bottle is over 1 kilometer. A casual walk would have left prints in at least 2 soft ground sections. No such prints are found. By 1640, the search perimeter reaches 3 kilometers. No voices, no signs of movement, no clothing fibers, no broken branches at shoulder height, which usually appear during night travel. Dogs in the area pick up weak scent trails, but lose them repeatedly. No consistent direction emerges. At 18:11, rangers close the day's log. 3 subjects missing. No verified path for any of them. 2 items located far from their origin points without associated travel evidence. Environmental conditions stable. Visibility normal, except for the brief fog event. At 6:52 the next morning, search teams resume operations near the cedar cluster. Fog from the previous night has lifted. Visibility extends across the slope. Soil moisture is moderate. Ground conditions should allow clear print recovery. They do not. Only scattered partial impressions remain. None form a continuous line. Rangers note that the density of leaf litter is low. More prints should be visible. At 7:23, a dog unit begins a scent run from the headlamp location discovered the previous day. The dogs follow a short path uphill, then loop back and stop near a rock outcrop. The handler repeats the run. Same result. The scent ends abruptly. No additional direction. No new scent pool. Rangers record this as the 3rd scent termination point, with no intermediate linking pattern. At 8:50, a second drone sweep captures an anomaly near a shallow ravine. A bright object lies between 2 shrubs. Ground teams reach the location by 9:38. The object is a multi-tool belonging to the first missing man. Blades closed. No dirt inside the hinge. No scratches on the exterior casing. The tool sits on top of dry leaves rather than beneath them. Rangers determine it was placed on the surface recently. How it reached that point is undetermined. No prints surround it. At 10:16, investigators recheck the area where the 2 remaining friends last radioed each other. The terrain is soft duff with occasional bare patches. Rangers look for signs of struggle, missteps, or slide marks. None appear. A fallen branch nearby shows fresh break patterns, but wind patterns do not match a break at that time of night. No clear link to the disappearance is established. By 11:47, a ranger locates a piece of fabric near a drainage line. The color matches a hiking shirt owned by one of the men. The fabric is torn cleanly along one edge. No snag points are present on nearby vegetation. No other parts of the shirt are found. The location sits nearly 2 kilometers from the tent along a downhill slope. The men were unlikely to enter in darkness without lamps. Rangers log the detail, but cannot determine placement time. At 13:12, the first confirmed body is located. A volunteer team spots a form in a shallow depression beside a moss bank. The position is supine. No major trauma. No torn clothing. The man lies with arms at his sides. No signs of environmental struggle. The depression is surrounded by soft soil that should record prints from multiple approaches. It records a kayak or none. Rangers mark the perimeter. No headlamp. No pack. No shoes nearby. The man's footwear is missing. At 15:24, another team finds the second man. He is discovered less than 600 meters uphill, resting against the base of a cedar trunk. No visible injuries. Clothing intact. Skin temperature consistent with overnight exposure. Around him, the soil shows no approach traces, no bent grass, no displaced debris. The man's pack lies 3 meters away in open view. The pack contains water and snacks. Rangers find no reason he would have abandoned it. By 1740, the search extends toward the ridgeline for the third missing man. No evidence is found that evening. The tent remains as it was. The items recovered throughout the day do not align with a single path. Each object appears in an isolated position with no connecting trail. The two recovered men show no obvious cause explaining separation. The third man's absence remains unexplained. At the end of the day, the log lists 3 inconsistencies: disappearance of all 3 within minutes, objects placed in locations without associated travel traces, 2 bodies in positions inconsistent with normal night movement. Search teams begin day 3 at 6:41. The remaining missing subject from the group of 3 has not been located. Weather is clear, temperature stable. Overnight conditions did not disturb ground patterns. Rangers prioritize the slope above the cedar line based on the separation of the other 2 men's recovery points. At 7:19, a ridge team identifies a faint indentation near a sandstone lip. The mark is shallow and inconsistent with a stable foot placement. It could be a partial step or natural erosion. No matching second impression appears nearby. The indentation angles toward a narrow channel leading to the upper ridge. The surface there is hard and uneven. Prints would not register clearly. Rangers note the detail but cannot confirm human origin. At 8:57, a drone sweep locates a reflective glint roughly 1 kilometer east of the search center. Ground teams reach the coordinates by 10:15. They find a stainless steel water bottle belonging to the third missing man. The bottle is wedged upright between 2 stones. No dents, no scratches, no prints. The placement appears deliberate. Rangers confirm the man carried the bottle in his pack the night he disappeared. Yet the pack itself has not been found. At 11:20, a dog unit conducts a new scent run from the water bottle. The dogs pull downhill briefly, then circle, then sit. The handler reports no consistent direction. This becomes the 4th scent termination in the case. None of the points align along a single logical route. By 12:46, searchers discover a second item in a shallow pocket of brush. A sock. Single, clean, dry. The fabric matches the type worn by the missing man. The sock has no soil embedded in the fibers. A sock dropped in the field should show some debris. This one does not. The distance from the water bottle is 180 meters. No prints link the 2 positions. At 14:04, the recovery team receives a radio call from a unit positioned along a steep drainage chute. A shape is visible at the base of a tree root cluster. Rangers reach the location by 15:22. The body of the third man is found seated against the roots. No major trauma, no torn clothing. The left sock is missing. This matches the single sock found earlier. The ground around the body is compressed only under the subject's weight. No approach prints, no slide marks, no scuffed bark. The chute presents a dangerous descent. Anyone moving down it at night would almost certainly leave disturbance at multiple points. None are visible. Rangers photograph the area from multiple angles. The incline shows no displaced stones. At 16:53, investigators compare the positions of all bodies and recovered items. The locations form no consistent pattern. Distances between the points vary widely. The timing of their movement is unknown. The tent location remains the only confirmed starting point. From there, the traces diverge into incomplete and contradictory lines. By 18:30, Incident Command completes the intermediate summary. All 3 subjects have been recovered. None show significant trauma or environmental damage consistent with the terrain. No connected path explains separation. No prints form a continuous trail. Object placement does not align with expected movement. The 5th disappearance occurs on a desert plateau with open sight lines in all directions. A solo traveler set his tent near a sandstone outcrop. The ground was a mix of hardpan and loose sand. Wind conditions were moderate during the day, decreasing toward evening. No other campers were within several kilometers. Sunset visibility was excellent. At 6:20 the next morning, a ranger on routine patrol found the tent door open. The fabric was not torn. Stakes remained firm in the ground despite overnight wind. The sleeping pad was inside. A half-filled bottle of water stood near the entrance. The traveler was not present. His shoes were missing from the entry area. The sand immediately outside the tent showed multiple overlapping impressions, none forming a clear exit direction. At 7:11, a search team documented the ground. Some prints pointed east, others southeast. A few circled back near the tent. Wind had distorted the finer details. The team attempted to establish a primary direction but could not. Rangers noted that despite moderate gusts, several deeper impressions remained clear enough to indicate different movement patterns, not a single straight path. At 8:32, a ranger located a cooking pot 200 meters from the tent. It rested against a rock face. No sand accumulation covered it. No wind shadow in the area explains the position. The pot's handle had no dust on the underside, suggesting it had not rolled or tumbled. Rangers logged the item as out of expected range. At 9:57, dog units attempted tracking from the tent perimeter. Scent was present, but weak. The dogs moved in a half-circle arc toward a shallow basin, then stopped. The handler ran them again. Same pattern. No continuous trail. No clear change in direction. The log notes intermittent scent with no definitive line. At 10:40, a drone scan detected a metallic reflection in a narrow fissure west of the campsite. Ground teams reached it at 12:13. Inside the fissure, they found the traveler's canteen. The distance from the tent to the fissure was nearly 4 kilometers across open terrain. The canteen showed no dents or scratches. The sand on the cap threads was minimal, inconsistent with impact or drifting. Rangers noted the fissure was not visible at night from the tent location. At 14:29, a small cloth pouch was discovered on a ridge. It contained the traveler's lighter and a spare phone battery. Both items were clean. No sand inside the pouch. No prints in the surrounding area. The ridge top is exposed. A person approaching should leave a visible sequence of impressions. None are present. By 15:56, the search perimeter expanded south. A volunteer found a torn map corner lodged under a shrub. The tear line matched a map believed to be in the subject's pack, but the rest of the map was not found. The fragment displayed no sun bleaching. Rangers recorded the condition as recent placement. At 17:22, no additional objects were located. The tent remained as discovered. The traveler's pack was still missing. The canteen's placement in the fissure and the pouch on the ridge did not align with any recorded movement path. Open terrain should have provided clear traceable prints. It did not. At 6:40 the next morning, the search team reconvenes at the desert plateau. Wind conditions are calm. Visibility extends across several kilometers of open ground. Rangers begin by retracing the positions of the recovered objects from the previous day. No new impressions appear. The sand remains undisturbed except for marks made during the initial search attempt. At 7:12, investigators re-examine the fissure where the canteen was found. A thin layer of sand has collected along the fissure edges overnight. Inside, the floor is clear. No new debris, no animal tracks. The canteen rests exactly as it did before. Rangers confirm again that reaching this fissure requires crossing open desert terrain where footprints should remain visible. None are present. At 8:51, a second drone scan picks up a light-toned shape behind a cluster of boulders nearly 5 kilometers southwest of the tent. The shape lacks strong thermal signature. Ground teams reach the area at 10:30. They find the traveler seated against the shaded side of a large boulder. The body shows no major external trauma. Clothing is intact. Skin condition indicates prolonged sun exposure followed by overnight cooling. The discovery location raises immediate questions. The route from the tent to the boulders crosses open sand and hardened flats. Even in low wind conditions, a person walking this path would leave consistent impressions. Rangers search the surrounding area for prints. None are found. The sand nearest the body shows only minimal disturbance beneath the subject's position. No approach marks, no retreat marks, no scattered debris. At 11:17, investigators check the hydration level of the canteen found in the fissure. The canteen is half full. If the traveler moved across the desert during the night, he would likely have carried it. Yet it was found kilometers away, in a location off any direct route to the boulder cluster. Rangers note this inconsistency without proposing an explanation. By 12:42, the search team examines the possibility of wind erosion removing prints. Meteorological logs show wind speeds insufficient to erase deeper impressions within the time frame. The shallow prints near the tent survived. Deeper prints from heavier steps should have remained visible. The absence of such prints across the open route remains unexplained. At 13:36, an evidence technician checks the cloth pouch found earlier. The interior is free of sand. This suggests minimal exposure to open wind, yet the pouch was discovered on a ridge where wind velocity is higher. No surrounding marks indicate movement by animals or rolling. At 14:59, rangers inspect the body's immediate surroundings in greater detail. No trail of shifted sand runs toward the boulder. No sign of resting points or collapsed positions appears along any potential line of travel. Shade from the boulder would offer relief during the day, but not at night. The subject's orientation suggests he was placed or seated intentionally. Rangers do not identify any feature of the terrain that would guide someone directly there in darkness. By 16:40, the search team concludes the day with a summary. A tent left intact. Overlapping prints near the starting point. No verified direction of travel. Objects found in multiple distant locations without continuous tracks. A body discovered at a site with no approach marks in a terrain that normally records movement clearly. The sixth disappearance begins at a forest boundary where a narrow trail runs along the entrance to a cave system. The terrain is mixed limestone and wet soil. A solo traveler placed his tent 10 meters from the main opening. He arrived before sunset. A small cooking area was set up beside the tent. Visibility was good. No other campers were present in the area. At 6:14 the next morning, a field officer found the tent door unzipped. The interior light was on. A headlamp lay on the ground near the sleeping mat. Batteries were active. The traveler was not inside. His boots were missing. His jacket remained folded near the pack. A cup with cooled liquid sat near the tent entrance. The surface of the liquid showed no debris, indicating it had not been disturbed by animals overnight. At 7:02, rangers checked the ground between the tent and the cave entrance. The soil showed a single line of impressions leading toward the cave. The prints were spaced normally. No signs of running. No sidestep patterns. The cave opening showed no disturbance. No marks on the limestone threshold. No handprints on the wall surface. The subject had no climbing gear. At 8:19, dog units began tracking from the entrance. They pulled into the main corridor for roughly 20 meters before pausing at a fork where 3 smaller passages diverged. The dogs circled and returned to the same point repeatedly. The handler logged the scent as present but inconsistent. By 9:41, rangers found the traveler's outer jacket lying deep inside a narrow side passage. The passage required crawling. The jacket was clean. No dust on the collar. No tears. No sign it was dragged. Positioned as if set down carefully. Rangers noted the passage ceiling had unopened fissures and loose fragments that would normally dust any object left there. The jacket had none. At 11:16, teams surveyed adjacent cavities. A metal clasp matching the traveler's pack hardware was found on a ledge 3 meters above ground level. The ledge had no easy access. The surface beneath showed no displaced dust, no fallen rocks. The clasp showed no scratches. Rangers could not determine how it reached that position. At 13:14, a volunteer located a water bottle 30 meters further inside, resting beside a stone pocket. The bottle was upright. No moisture accumulation around it. The interior temperature indicated it had been placed there after ambient cooling. The surrounding floor held no prints, no knee marks, no dragging signs. The log notes the absence of any access path. At 15:33, plans shifted to inspect the upper chambers. A rope team moved through a vertical shaft. At roughly 7 meters height, they located scattered debris unrelated to the subject. No evidence of upward travel appeared. The shaft walls held enough dust to record recent contact, but no new marks were found. At 16:58, a ranger noted a faint sound echo pattern inconsistent with the normal acoustics of the chamber. No visual disturbance accompanied it. All teams were accounted for. The cause was not identified. The log records the detail without interpretation. By 1820, the day's summary was completed. Multiple items from the subject were found inside the cave, each located in positions difficult to reach. None showed typical dust or scratch patterns. No continuous trail connected the pieces. The jacket's condition was inconsistent with the environment. The clasp location was inconsistent with normal movement. At 6:40, the search resumes at the cave entrance. Overnight temperature remained low. Moisture inside the chambers has increased. Dust patterns across the limestone surfaces should now show any new contact. Rangers note no fresh marks on the walls near the main corridor. Airflow patterns are stable. No evidence of movement occurred during the night. At 7:21, a rope team re-enters the narrow side passage where the jacket was found. They check the surrounding surfaces for microabrasion. None appears. The limestone is soft enough that a sleeve or backpack edge would normally leave faint scratches. The absence of those marks suggests the jacket did not make contact with the walls when placed inside. The log marks this as incompatible with the passage's physical dimensions. At 8:54, investigators begin a full scan of the lower chamber. This chamber has a flat floor and a shallow pool of standing water on the far side. Any human entry typically disrupts the clear surface. Rangers shine lights across the water. The surface is smooth, no ripples, no sediment displacement. Yet at 9:22, a small object is recovered from the pool's edge. It is the traveler's pocket knife. It shows no corrosion. The blade is closed. The knife is dry. No watermarks are present. Rangers confirm it could not have been submerged. By 10:46, dog units are deployed again. The dogs show interest along the left wall of the chamber. They stop repeatedly at a point where the stone surface narrows. The handler checks for airflow that might carry scent upward. Air movement is minimal. The dogs lose the trail beyond that point. The log notes scent concentration at a static location with no directional lead. At 12:13, a new discovery is made in an upper cavity. A small cloth strap, likely from the traveler's pack, is found on a slanted shelf 2 meters above eye level. The shelf has a thin dust layer. The underside of the strap is clean. No dust adhesion. No scrape marks. Rangers document the shelf's angle. Any object placed there should slide unless deliberately positioned. No prints appear on the rock surface below. At 14:28, a ranger inspecting a narrow vertical fissure reports an unusual detail. A faint indentation on the stone floor resembles a partial heel print. The shape is incomplete. No tread detail is visible. The indent does not match the traveler's boot type. It could be natural erosion. It could be unrelated. The log records the observation without classification. By 15:55, a second acoustic anomaly is noted. A shift in echo response within the main chamber occurs when a ranger calls out. The pattern differs from baseline checks performed earlier. No air pressure changes are detected. No animals are found in adjacent cavities. The cause is not determined. Rangers list it as environmental anomaly. At 17:21, a final review is conducted at the cave entrance. Evidence now includes 4 items found in separate sectors of the system. None show movement patterns consistent with crawling or climbing. No clear sequence of travel is established. No dust trails link the locations. Surfaces that should record disturbances remain intact. At 18:10, the daily summary concludes. Entry traces exist. Exit traces do not. Items appear in positions that require contact with surfaces, yet surfaces show no contact. The body has not been recovered, and no subsystem of the cave shows a complete path. The seventh disappearance involves a man camping with his dog in a dense conifer forest. Their tent was placed on a level patch of ground beside a small drainage line. The man was an experienced hiker. He informed a relative by message at 1940 that he had reached camp safely. Weather remained calm through the night. No reports of storms or high winds. At 6:20 the next morning, a nearby hiker found the dog sitting alone on a slope, approximately 200 meters from the campsite. The dog was calm. The collar lay on the ground beside it. The buckle was intact. No tearing. No broken strap fibers. The dog showed no signs of injury. When approached by the hiker, the dog moved downhill but did not return to the campsite. At 7:11, rangers reached the tent. The flap was half open. Sleeping gear was inside. The man's jacket was still rolled near the pack. A flashlight lay on its side near the entrance. Battery still functional. No signs of struggle. No displaced debris. The area around the tent contained a few unclear impressions, none deep enough to confirm direction of travel. At 8:23, dog units attempted to track the missing man using scent from his clothing. The dogs followed the drainage line briefly, then crossed a small ridge. At the ridge crest, they circled twice, then sat. No further pull. No directional trail. The handler repeated the run. Same result. The log notes sent termination at the ridge top. By 9:40, rangers examined the dog's position at the time of discovery. The ground there showed slight compression where the animal sat. No prints from the missing man were found in a radius of 20 meters. If the man had been with the dog earlier, at least one impression should be present. None appear. At 11:15, a volunteer located the man's water filter bottle near a moss bank. The bottle was upright, cap closed. The surface was wet from condensation, but held no soil along its base. The location was roughly 400 meters from the tent. The surrounding ground was soft. No prints or impressions were detected. At 12:59, a jacket liner believed to be part of the man's outerwear was discovered in a shallow ditch. The liner was clean. No mud on the interior. The ditch contained standing water from overnight runoff. Rangers noted that the liner could not have remained clean if it had lain there long. No disturbance was recorded around it. At 14:42, dog units tried to track from the water filter bottle. The dogs briefly followed a path toward a cluster of fir trees, then lost the scent once more. The handler logged a second termination point, consistent with the earlier ridgetop result. No prints supported the direction. By 16:12, a drone sweep located an isolated light reflection on a clearing roughly 800 meters north. Ground teams found a single glove belonging to the missing man. No dirt inside. No sign of weathering. The glove rested on a patch of grass with no surrounding disturbance. At 17:40, the day's summary concluded. The dog was found separated from the campsite with its collar removed. The man was not located. Multiple items appeared at distances inconsistent with a continuous path. Terrain that normally records footprints showed none. Scent trails terminated in multiple unrelated locations. At 6:30 the following morning, rangers returned to the clearing where the glove was found. Overnight weather remained calm. No rain. No wind strong enough to disturb the grass. The glove is in the same position. No new impressions are visible around it. The grass blades beneath the glove are flattened only by its weight. No signs indicate sliding or rolling. At 7:08, teams expand the search perimeter north of the clearing. The terrain becomes more open, sparse underbrush, patches of soft soil between tree clusters. This type of surface usually records movement clearly, yet no prints appear. No broken twigs at shoulder height. No displaced moss. Rangers document the absence of disturbance. At 8:50, dog units begin a new scent track from the glove. The dogs move slowly, circle twice, then pull west toward a shallow ravine. At the ravine rim, they stop. No further pull. No scent continuation. The handler logs termination point number 3. All three termination points lie in different terrain types with no connecting logic. At 9:46, a ranger discovers the missing man's headlamp on a log above the ravine. The lamp is functional. The lens is clean. No dirt in the rubber seal. The log surface shows no indentation that would indicate the lamp fell from height. The lamp appears placed intentionally. Surrounding ground shows no prints. At 11:12, teams search the ravine floor. Soil is soft with pockets of mud from older runoff. No impressions appear, no drag marks, no clothing fibers. The ravine walls show no scrape patterns. Rangers conclude the man did not descend through the channel in any conventional way. At 12:50, the drone team detects an object near a tree cluster on the opposite side of the ravine. Teams reach the spot by 13:43. They find the missing man's pack. It is upright, straps buckled, contents in order. Water bottle inside, snacks untouched, no soil on the base of the pack. Rangers note that an upright pack on soft ground typically leaves a defined base print. This pack leaves only a faint circular depression inconsistent with its weight. At 15:03, the dog unit is run again from the pack position. The dogs pull slightly north, then lose the scent after 10 meters. Handler logs a fourth termination. None of the four termination points form a trackable line. At 16:28, the body is located. A volunteer moving through a fern patch finds the subject lying on his back between two low stumps, arms at his sides. No major trauma. Clothing intact. The ground beneath the body is slightly compressed, but no approach marks led to the position. No disturbed soil. No bent fern stems beyond the immediate outline of the body. At 17:40, investigators compare object locations. The tent, the dog's discovery point, the water filter bottle, the liner, the glove, the headlamp, the pack, and the body form a scatter pattern with no consistent route. Soft terrain in several sectors preserved no prints. Scent trails began, but did not continue. Items placed in wet or soft environments remained clean. By 18:10, the day's report is completed. Official notes highlight four conditions: no trackable movement, no clear separation event between the man and the dog, items placed without associated disturbance, a recovery site with no viable access path. The eighth disappearance occurs in a crowded campground near a river bend. Dozens of tents occupy the area during a weekend event. Noise levels were low after midnight. Weather remained stable. No reported disturbances. The missing subject was a teenager camping with relatives. He entered his tent at approximately 22:30. No unusual behavior noted. No conflict reported. At 6:10, the next morning, the family discovered the tent empty. The zipper was closed. An unopened snack bar lay inside near the sleeping bag. His shoes were missing. The ground around the tent showed multiple prints from general foot traffic. Distinguishing the subject's prints was difficult. Rangers were notified at 6:32. At 7:21, the search team established a primary grid within the campground perimeter. Witness interviews produced no leads. No one reported seeing the teenager exit the tent. Campers in adjacent sites heard no movement. A flashlight still lay near the tent door. Battery functional. No signs indicated it was used during the night. At 8:50, a ranger located a shirt belonging to the teenager on a brushy slope east of the campground. The shirt was draped across a low branch. No stretching, no tearing. The fabric was dry. No soil on the collar. The slope below contained soft dust that should record descent marks. None appeared. Rangers logged the position as inconsistent with expected movement from the campground. At 10:04, a drone team identified a small bright object on a ridge 3 kilometers north. Ground teams reached the area by 11:20. They found a pair of shoes standing upright on a fallen log, laces tied, no dirt on the soles, no prints around the log. Rangers noted the shoes showed no scuffing that would accompany travel through brush or rocky paths. The log surface held no indentation indicating impact. At 12:48, dog units began tracking from the log. The dogs followed a short arc westward, then stopped in an open grass sector. The handler repeated the run. Same termination point, no directional pattern beyond that circle. The grass around the area showed no trampled blades, no approach or retreat marks. At 14:19, a volunteer searching near a dry creek bed found a sports watch identified as the teenagers'. The watch lay on a flat stone. The stone was clean, no water stains. The bed had not carried water in weeks. No surrounding prints indicated how the watch reached the location. At 15:53, another drone sweep located a fabric patch on a ledge above the creek bed. The patch matched the shorts the subject wore. The ledge had no safe access without climbing equipment. The rock surface below held no scrape marks, no displaced material. Rangers documented the position and retrieved the fabric without discovering additional items. At 16:37, the body was found in a dry channel beyond the ridge. The position was lateral, arms forward, no major trauma, clothing intact except for the missing patch. The ground immediately under the body was lightly compressed. The surrounding channel floor showed no approach marks, no footprints, no sliding patterns, no disturbed debris. By 17:50, the search team completed the preliminary summary. A tent with the zipper closed, no witnesses, clothing items found at distances inconsistent with travel paths, shoes placed upright, a watch placed cleanly on stone, a fabric patch on a ledge with no access, a recovery site lacking any entry evidence. At 6:30 the following morning, Rangers returned to the dry channel where the teenager's body was recovered. Overnight conditions were stable, no wind strong enough to disturb loose debris. The body has been removed. The ground imprint beneath remains visible. The surrounding sector shows no additional markings. No prints appear beyond the immediate outline. No displaced gravel. No bent grass stems. Investigators confirm again that no approach trace exists in any direction. At 7:19, a technician inspects the stone surface where the sports watch was found the previous day. Dust accumulation is minimal. No scrape marks appear along the edges. The watch shows no signs of impact. Battery level remains stable. Rangers conclude it was placed, not dropped. How it reached the stone without associated tracks remains unresolved. At 8:54, search teams revisit the ridge where the shoes were discovered. The fallen log retains the same surface pattern. No new impressions, no additional fibers. The soles of the shoes still show no dust patterns typical of recent field travel. No scuffing, no embedded debris. Rangers again note the lack of surrounding disturbance. The position is added to the final diagram as an isolated anomaly. By 10:20, the fabric patch location is rechecked. The ledge surface shows no new debris. The rock below remains unmarked. No natural event during the night accounts for the patch's earlier placement. The retrieval site indicates the patch rested in a stable position despite the exposure. This detail is included in the final summary. At 11:51, investigators review all recorded sequences from the campground to the recovery site. No witness reported nighttime movement. No lights. No voices. The zipper of the tent remained closed. The teenager had no history of sleepwalking. No clear reason exists for leaving the tent without shoes or a flashlight. Rangers examine nearby tents for possible sightings. None emerge. By 13:10, the report transitions to version analysis. The first version considers voluntary nighttime movement. Rangers list inconsistencies. No known motive. No witnesses. No visible route between any of the object locations. The second version considers accidental disorientation. Ground conditions do not support this. The campground is flat. Multiple people were awake at various times. No one observed any movement. A third version evaluates the possibility of object displacement by environmental factors. This is discounted. No wind patterns match the placement of the shoes, watch, or fabric patch. No animal tracks appear in any sector. The positions are inconsistent with typical wildlife behavior. A fourth version considers unknown travel paths. Rangers note that no terrain feature suggests a concealed route. No impressions appear in soft sectors where prints should be most visible. No connecting pattern emerges from scent trails. Each recovered item remains isolated. At 15:43, Incident Command completes the last entry. The case is closed with no confirmed travel path and no documented exit event. The final diagram shows multiple object positions, each without an approach or retreat pattern. The recovery site remains unexplained in relation to the campground. At 16:20, a final statement is added. 8 cases, 8 different terrains: mountain shelf, pine forest, ridge system, desert plateau, cave chambers, crowded campground, each with its own conditions, each with different variables. Yet every file shows the same core issue. People disappear from tents under stable conditions. Items appear in locations with no clear access. Bodies recover in areas without approach traces. And every search ends with more data, but no definitive sequence. If you followed these cases through all 20 parts, what detail stays with you the most? The closed tent zippers, the clean items in rough environments, the lack of tracks across soft ground, or the consistent absence of any final explanation? If you want more reports like this, consider leaving a like or subscribing. Your feedback in the comments helps direct which cases to examine next. And if any detail in these 8 files stood out to you, share your thoughts. Sometimes the unexplained becomes clearer when more eyes review the same evidence.